All right, welcome to the Marketecture Podcast, where you can get smart fast with in-depth interviews of technical executives. I'm Ari Paparo. I'm joined today. This is Advertising Week, first of all, so we're excited to be here in New York in person. You may notice a little bit of a different format with my good old friend, Steven Yap, who I always take pains to prod on the podcast, but finally you're on. So, Steven, thanks for joining me.
No, thanks for having me. Big week and ad week. Woohoo!
Yeah,
it's like
Advertising Week. It's not ad week. Ad week is a trademark of a different company.
Advertising week. That's right.
But I am probably going to go to the ad week session at Advertising Week, even though they're competitors. It's confusing. So why are you here, Steven? You're the CRO of Perion.
Yeah. So, as you know, after 25 years of combined servitude with Google and DoubleClick.
Servitude?
I was in paid service, so yes.
Yes, okay, fine.
Went over to Perion, right? They're doing some really interesting things, and again, trying to get back to my roots in, like I was at DoubleClick in early days Google, kind of building out solutions that are meaningful and have an impact.
How's the free food? Is there free food at Perion?
There is some free food there, yeah. It's not as extensive as the Google cafes, as you can imagine. Like, there's no sit-down dining hall as there is in Google or cafes. But we're small but mighty.
You have to fend for yourself. It's how you stay sharp.
Yeah, it's actually it's you're going back to the real world. It's kind of interesting.
I know this is off topic, but like some people say they joined Google and they instantly like gain 10 pounds, like the freshman 15, right? And then some people do the opposite. They join Google, and because there's like salad all the time, they lose 10, 15 pounds, right? How do you feel about the healthfulness of free food?
Yeah, so I think it's just on a sliding scale. Yeah. I think when you first start, you're basically, pillaging the micro kitchens for like peanut M&Ms. You're taking those back on your commute with you, and all the Diet Cokes, and then at some point, you kind of hit that point in the graph where it's just you get into self-realization, and you're like, I'm gonna have a cardiac arrest if I keep on eating like this, and so then you slowly start to kind of lose your weight and go down.
Yeah, I always had this peanut M&Ms speak to me because I even had an incident with them while I worked at Google where I don't remember exactly the circumstance. I think this whole story's on my blog somewhere from back then. But yeah, someone tried to inter-office me peanut M&Ms because I think I was complaining the New York office didn't have any. And the mailroom was unable to deliver it. It was against the policies of the internal Google Mail system.
Look at you, breaking Google policy from an early age. I'm sure that was a whole section in your book, too.
I think, like I said, I think I wrote it up at the time on aripaparo.com, but it didn't make it into the final cut of the book. All right, I guess we should talk about Perion, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you've been there coming up on a year, maybe?
Yeah, almost a year. So I started in February.
All right, and there was a pretty big kind of product change. You released Perion One.
Yeah.
So take me through, what is Perion One? What is Perion and what is Perion One?
So for a long time, right? So Perion's been around for about 25 years.
Right.
And so it was mostly just a holding company of multiple technology pieces. And I think, it's kind of, the acknowledgement of, with the innovation of today and basically how ad tech has actually proliferated everywhere, there's obviously a pretty strong understanding that the world's just inefficient, right? And per our earlier conversation around this kind of culture in technology, right? Watching my kids and things like that, of how they interact with technology, it is an instant gratification consumer culture. Like, sure. I got it on my watch, I got it on my TV, got it on my phone, my tablet, what have you. And so I think where we're seeing kind of breakage points is around kind of how efficient and effectively can I get marketing out there, right, across all the different channels, and know exactly who I'm talking to, how I'm optimizing, and how I'm actually spending my money. And so in looking at that, instead of having multiple products and multiple sales teams and multiple contracts and going to market like that, you have like 4 or 5 teams talking to the same person. We looked at it as a unification of kind of people, process, and technology, right? Where it's like, all right, so we can bring the people together, get the processes together, so it's a single contract. But the technology, what if you were able to actually log in and be able to start to media plan across all of these different channels, right? Instead of having to learn 16 different technologies. And so that was the impetus of Perion One. And so we launched that in February, and then obviously we've continued to kind of develop our technology assets, and then actually had the green bids.
Right, green bids. I forgot about that. So let's break it up. So having it all in one place is great, but I don't know what all of it is. The 16 channels. Perion's known for what? Undertones, search, green bids. Walk me through some of the key things that are part of that.
Yeah. So when you look at across the channels, I mean, obviously everyone was familiar with the old Undertone business in our industry, but it's also kind of the marriage of, we had a business called Code Fuel, a business called VidiZoo. We have the old Undertone business, which was very heavy in kind of this high impact format. So really cool creatives. Yeah. Probably the coolest I think I've honestly seen in my time in the industry. And then we also bought a digital out of home bidder, and so that's that company, which was Hivestack, is the best by far digital out of home technology.
Right.
And trying to figure out, okay, so you've got CTV, you've got standard display, you have your search assets, you've got digital out of home assets, and then we obviously bought Green Bids, the custom algo.
It's custom algo and carbon, kind of like.
So it's custom algo, carbon, and then it's across obviously YouTube and DV360.
All right.
But as well as things like Meta. So being able to actually bring those all together and be like, okay, so here's kind of your overall media plan. Here's how you want to buy it. Can you be more efficient and using kind of algorithmic AI?
Yeah.
And how do you optimize across all those channels? Because eventually you're going to get to a point in the industry, right, which I feel like we're rapidly heading there. And I think that is the really interesting thing, which is how do you then leverage AI to allow AI to determine how you're distributed across all of these different channels, and do so really agnostically, right? Because I think that's also it's a huge question out there with some of the larger tech providers.
Yeah, I think when you have a big tech provider that has multiple products, they can put incentives to using them. They may not be in the customer's interest, though they may be. So with your sort of thesis about bringing everything together, how do the customers specifically benefit? Is it budget allocation, optimization, et cetera? And what have you seen in reality?
Yeah, so it's actually all of the above, right? So it's kind of better optimization, better ways of working, right? So we're bringing back kind of that, hey, we want you to do more with less, right? So when you look at like our algorithmic business, your ability, one of our biggest customers was basically talking to us about, look, your ability to make $1 million budget feel like it's reaching $2 million is really telling for us, right? Especially when you start to get into these really weird, financial markets where, you're getting price compression, the marketing budgets are being kind of scrutinized, which seems like they always are these days.
Yeah, sure.
But, when you have a solution, be like, look, your budget might have gotten cut by 70%. But I can still make your budget feel and perform like it's at 100. So being able to actually apply that, and you're taking those algorithms and apply it not only to what you're doing in CTV and display and search, but also being able to do that across like things like digital out of home.
Yeah, sure.
And your YouTube buys make a lot of sense because you're obviously using the same data sets to optimize them.
And do you see that, is the customer coming to you and they already have a media plan that includes, say, a format like digital out of home, or is it opportunistic, saying, "Oh, well, I'm already doing, say, undertone, high impact ads. I might as well do digital."
Yeah, it's both, right? Like honestly, I think there's an opportunistic way of doing it, which is kind of the land and expand type of model, right? Where it's, hey, I'm doing wonders for your budget on YouTube. Right. Oh, you also do digital out of home? Yeah, we see you do a lot of it, so we can actually do the same thing across these channels. And then there are the other ones where we know, obviously, we've got competitors out there in the market. But we can actually make them much more efficient. Like I know our European teams are doing this very, very well today, which are, look, we can offer you really incredible efficiencies across both your CTV buys and your digital out of home buys using our custom algorithm.
Right. So how does a custom algorithm, well, I guess going into the depth, I wanted to.
Yeah, you know better than to go into depth with me, Ari. Especially on the technology side. Shame on you.
Right. But digital out of home and CTV is a nice combination. Definitely definitely something that'd be interesting. So how does AI fit into it? You kind of have to talk about AI whether you want to or not. It's a requirement.
Yeah, no, it seems it was kind of the running joke, which was the most used two letters in probably ad tech in the last 3 years.
Other than FU, sure.
We continue to run in the same circles. So I think first off, I think there's two kind of polarities of AI. I look at it in the marketplace. The one which is everyone talks about these big, bright, beautiful universes that are controlled by AI. It reminds me of the big data conversations of old.
Oh, I remember those. Those were fun.
It cost a lot of people their jobs.
Give us all the logs, even though we don't have any employees who can use the logs.
or infrastructure. It was like when cloud was just getting started, no one could do it, and everyone got fired. And that famous meme about the CMO's job is like 16-month tenure or something like that.
Well, with AI, you don't need
No, it's not true.
Okay, tell me about AI.
That's not true.
Tell me about the CMOs.
CMOs out there, that is not true. That is not what I believe.
The CMOs typing into the prompt, I want a unified solution, and then boom, you pop up, and everything's good.
Yeah, I mean, our Google AdWords account is legit.
It is.
No, so you have that on one side of the polarity. The other side of the polarity is just the simple application, right? And a lot of that has to do with how are you optimizing, how are you ingesting data into those systems, and then how you're working across those systems, right? So think of it as like actually the AI being the connective tissues. It's just kind of looking at each one.
Right.
And I think that's also been a problem, or at least it is becoming a problem within the industry, which is, we talk about all these silos and the silo story. But we're doing the same thing again, right? Like everyone's creating AI on top of their silos.
That's true.
I got AI here, I got AI here. I'm like, great, we haven't solved any of the problems. I think, the things that we're looking at, quite frankly, are, as I mentioned, like being able to leverage our AI across all of the optimization architecture that we currently have in every channel, right? And so what does that really look like? Well, when you kind of apply it, the easiest way to explain it would be, as the campaigns are running and they're running concurrently, the system's looking and going, oh, well, we're ingesting weather data,
right?
And it's going to be negative 40 degrees in a snowstorm in New York City. So this week I'm going to pull my digital out-of-home budgets and put them into CTV because no one's going to be walking the streets of New York.
That's cool. Yeah.
Everyone's going to be sitting on the couch.
Right.
And so in being able to actually execute on those things, I think through AI that's going to be the reality.
Yeah.
Because I do think ultimately we're going to get to a world where the CMO, who's still very important,
yes,
Ari,
not eliminated by AI.
Not eliminated by AI. But the CMO is they're going to be looked at as almost a portfolio manager by the CFO.
That makes sense.
Right, which is like, here's your budget.
Yeah.
Here's the return I'm expecting. Do I necessarily care where you spend it? No. What I want is the return. And so there are obviously, it's going to be a little bit more complex with that with obviously brand suitability and things like that baked in. But I do think you'll get to a place where it's a nice marriage between people and technology where you're going to be able to be much more efficient in terms of what you want to do, but also have a little bit of that control.
Is your AI built on top of the green bids? Is that like fulcrum?
Yeah. So we had actually, we combined all of our AI assets into kind of, Perion Algo, which is, basically the center point of all of our algorithmic aspirations, if you will.
Right. And that works both on Perion One and on other platforms?
Yes. Yeah. Because you got the DV360 and Meta.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so I think, I think it does speak a large part into the way in which we want to position ourselves. I mean, I've long held the belief that ad tech kind of lost its way during this journey, which is everyone wants to own this concept of owning the customer.
Sure.
It's like, oh, who owns the customer? And you look at it and you're like, in reality, no one does.
Customer owns themselves.
Yeah, customer owns themselves. And by the way, if you think you own them, open up the door and you see 10,000 of the same people like you waiting outside to meet with their customer.
Sure.
Right. So I think ad tech really needs to be more of an enabler.
Right.
Right, an underlying technology. So it's like, look, I can fit in to at whatever point you're at and whatever part of the journey you may be at versus you have to come into my workflow. Yeah. You have to use my data. And by the way, I'm going to restrict what you can give me because it's against my policy or so on and so forth.
So do you think, I want to explore this idea of the CMO as the portfolio manager and also how it relates to AI. Do you think that the CMO is now looking to contract with one entity, their agency, who's going to be the AI ringleader for them? Or are they going to look for their own in-house tech that's AI? Or is there some hybrid?
I think that has yet to play out, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think everyone, I mean, we made the joke early when we started the conversation, like everyone's got an AI story.
Yeah.
Right. No matter who you are in the marketplace, including obviously the large holder companies, right?
They're investing a lot.
Yeah, they're investing a ton. I mean, I think with one of the greatest moves they made unknowingly, right, was to get ahead of the, there's a whole thing called cookie deprecation where we're going to eliminate, some sort of tracker that's out there in the web, apparently.
Yeah. I think our audience is familiar.
Yeah, there's this big thing. If you should look it up.
But it's not happening anymore, so we're fine.
I have no recollection of that, Ari.
I did write about that in my book. Anyway, go on.
So I think what the agencies ended up, kind of falling into was like, hey, we're trying to build our identity graph for the field of the cookie deprecation. What they landed with were these huge data companies, right? Which has been pretty incredible, right? Because if you start to feed your AI aspirations and you're using that type of data to feed it, it can be incredibly powerful. Now, I have yet to see kind of an example from a lot of the different companies as to where they specifically are. I think everyone's got an example of how they're using it and leveraging it. But again, I think as marketers explore, a lot will be determined by kind of where their appetite is, right? If they want kind of controlling of it, or if they're really using an agency partner in a global framework. What does that look like and things like that? Because again, what we often forget is the AI is governed by the data that feeds it. The data is governed oftentimes by political and policy entities that are often different across the world, right? The GDPRs, the California Privacy Act. So, I think as this plays out, I think you'll see a different model kind of reveal itself.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not quite sure what that might be.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think that there are applications of AI, like creative is an obvious one. And it's not clear that they all converge into one sort of giant brain, advertising brain.
Right.
Like you might have a creative system, that's where the agencies have been investing so much. And then on the media side, it might be a very different kind of approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, at some point they're going to have to connect with each other some way. Right? Because there's, I think what is also when you start talking to a lot of the marketers out there and the agency folks out there is there's a need for consistency. Like I can't be inconsistent in this channel and then be super efficient in this channel, right? Like so, I do think ultimately you'll get to a point where it's just going to be a forced model.
Yeah.
But again, I think everyone who's kind of building these AI entities, including us, what we're trying to figure out is, look, our aspiration is we're going to be best in channel across because that makes you really, really relevant, right, and really efficient. And then we're going to layer the AI on top of that, and we'll meet you wherever you need to be. So if you're just doing digital out of home, great. We'll layer our AI capabilities on top of that. If you're plugging CTV into it, perfect. Like the AI model should be able to replicate those media plans and the ways in which you optimize to create that consistency. So I think it's going to be an interesting time in the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. Any things you're hearing about the AI's impact on web traffic, the open web, and stuff like that? Is that something you've got your ear to the ground on?
I mean, haven't spent a ton of time there. I was asked that question in another interview in terms of
you're doing other interviews. You're two timing this podcast. I mean, I don't feel good.
They're not as important as yours.
I need to own the guest.
No,
own the guest.
as I look at my competitors outside your door. No, but when you look at the open web, I do think having AI being able to kind of leverage and look through the landscape for you for relevancy, right, and relevancy, how appropriate it is, and the probability of this is what I'm looking for. I think it actually will offer some opportunity for some of the smaller publishers to actually kind of surface to the ground and have actually better chances at showcasing their value. I do think, there's a lot of chatter. The open web's dead. I think there's a little bit of truth in kind of the decline of the open web, obviously, because everyone sees it in their numbers. Yeah. But it's, will it be fully destroyed? I don't think so.
Numbers are going down, but a lot of what's going down is the lowest quality traffic.
Yeah. And so I think by that is the question then gets turned, right? Is can AI help us clean up the ecosystem of the bad actors? Because, we've seen it. Like, the bad actors are ridiculous.
Yeah, bad actors, like people who are creating hundreds of pages of content so they could spam SEO. I mean, we're old enough to remember the, like, what time is the Super Bowl content, right?
What time is the Super Bowl? Wow. Yes.
Those were good times when you'd publish an article like that and get thousands of views just because Google had no concept of when the Super Bowl was.
No. And it was, I mean, and that's, the funny thing is that I think there are going to be ways, right, in terms of the word of caution, which is, it always seems like the bad actors are always one step ahead of the people who actually want to actually be beneficial to the industry.
Sure.
And so I do think we'll still find ourselves in a weird place. And I think we see it today. Like some of the spoofs are out there are incredibly impressive.
Right.
Like I'm afraid to actually answer any of the, like, either phone calls or inquiries I get.
Like phishing stuff.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I'm working with your doctor's office. I'm like, are you?
I know. I gave everyone in my family gave a code word that supposedly, like, we all remember.
Why is that so brand appropriate
It's like,
for you?
if I ever call you and ask you to do anything really weird, like, send a ransom amount in cash, there's a code word, and I will use that code word if it's really me.
Hi, Mom. Right after my podcast, I flew to the Himalayas and I ran out of money.
It's like, Mom, something about chrysanthemum is, it's a smart. Anyway, it's a best practice. Let's just say that. So we usually end these interviews with a lightning round. I'm just going to do a very abbreviated one.
Okay, let's see. This is going to be interesting. I'm holding my breath
Just
now.
a couple quick questions. What is your number one competitive advantage?
I think it's our technology, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think we have the best technology out there in terms of the channels that we play in.
And what is your number one challenge in the market?
I think our number one challenge, given kind of this shift to Perion One, is people getting familiar with the brand, right? Like, you rebrand, you know how that works. People have been brand loyal. They think they know what you do, but you've evolved, and so trying to actually make sure you're getting the right message out there in terms of what challenges are you looking to solve for,
Sure.
And how you can help me, and that you're actually good at what you do.
And the last question: if Perion was an animal, what animal would it be?
Ooh, the honey badger.
Honey badger. Why is that?
Perion's been through a lot in its history, and it just the thing never gives up, and it's absolutely ferocious.
Honey badger don't care.
Honey badger don't care.
All right. So Steven Yap, the CRO of Perion, thank you for joining us.
No, I have one quick question for you.
Oh, you have a question for me? We're not done yet.
No. When am I going to get? You promised me when we saw each other at the at the ramp up event, you were going to give me a signed copy that said "Help." Thank you for helping to ruin the web.
I only vaguely recall that. Have you bought a copy?
I have, yeah.
Okay, well, you could have brought it. I would have signed it.
I know. I actually thought about that on my way over.
So, I don't know what to tell you. Are you going to be at Architecture Live?
Yeah, actually, I think I'm
Then
actually
bring
going
your copy, and I'll be happy to sign.
I'll be one of 1,000 people standing in line waiting for the signature.
And this is a public service announcement. I am not above signing your copy in any circumstance, at any conference, at any dinner, in the men's room. Just give me a pen, and I'm ready to go.
It's not the cleanest way to do it, but okay. Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's good seeing you.
Absolutely. It's a great conversation. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, cheers.